Have you ever visited a place where you have no prior knowledge of it, but you just get the feeling that it is haunted as hell? That is exactly how Beaumanor Hall makes you feel. From the malevolent spirit of a coachman to unseen forces throwing things around, this manor is a hotbed of paranormal activity. Come and sit by me as we get into the history and the hauntings of Beaumanor Hall. Hey friend, how are you doing today? Are you doing good? Are you drinking your water? Welcome back. Or if you are new here, hi, I'm Claire and I am a lover of all things morbid, mysterious and macabre. I have spent hours and hours absolutely enthralled with ghost hunting TV shows, but you know what I love more than night vision footage and EVPs? The history behind a haunted house, the origins of urban legends, and the real ghost stories that people experience firsthand. So that's what we're gonna do. Every week, we're gonna sit down and chat all things paranormal, swapping ghost stories like a good old sleepover. So make sure to subscribe so that you never miss a chat. Today's story takes us right into the heart of the UK. Sitting in the beautiful countryside, just outside of Loughborough, lies the most quintessentially British manor house you will ever see. It's steeped in history and home to more than a few spectral beings. We're talking about Beaumanor Hall. While the stately home that sits there has been around since the 1800s, Beaumanor's history goes back a lot further than that. The estate near Charnwood Forest appears in medieval records as far back as 1277. The more research I'm doing, the more I'm starting to realise just how old this island is. Like, there are so many old buildings and like old locations, it's crazy. So the Herrick family had owned the Beaumanor estate since 1557, with the building that we see today being the third iteration of the family home. This was built by the 7th William Herrick in 1842 and was finished in 1854. They really liked the Williams in that family. Oh, William, congratulations, it's a boy. What are you going to call it? Ah, William. Why not? So our friend William was also a collector of interesting furniture that had a dark history attached to it. One of these purchases was King Dick's bed. And no, that is not an adult film. It was a 4-poster bed, which the legend says was the same bed that King Richard III slept in the night before he was killed in the Battle of Bosworth in 1485. The Battle of Bosworth is its own thing in itself. It's got its own ghost stories. It has a visitor centre near to where the battle actually took place, because they're not quite sure like which particular field it was. Our school bus route used to go past the visitor centre, and so the road's here and the visitor centre's sort of like up a hill, and in the winter when we'd go past you'd see like all the fog coming down from the hill. Really creepy. Pretty cool to see. So even after its owner was slaughtered in battle, the 4-poster bed remained at the pub, the Blue Boar in Leicester, and it passed down from tenant to tenant for hundreds of years. I think the reason that no one moved it was because there was a rumour attached to King Dick's bed. The rumour was that treasure was hidden somewhere in the bed, left there by the king himself. In 1604, Agnes Clark, who was the landlady of the Blue Boar, was found dead. The following year, in 1605, a man named Edward Bradshaw was executed, and a serving girl, Alice Grimbold, was burned at the stake. They were both found guilty of murdering Agnes Clark, the landlady. And the reason? What does it always come down to? The story goes that before Agnes's husband had died, he had actually found the treasure that was hidden in this bed. It was basically like a massive stash of gold sovereigns, and while we don't really have a very accurate converter of currency from the 1600s to now, basically it was a lot of money. It was a buttload of money. It was enough money that before he died, Agnes's husband had become Lord Mayor of Leicester, which is a pretty decent achievement for a pub landlord of the time. And so it was that one night, a petty criminal named Thomas Harrison happened upon the Blue Boar. He heard about the story with the bed and the newfound wealth and decided he wanted the money for himself. According to the legend, he seduced one of the serving girls, Alice Grimbold, and together with one of his crew, one of his band of merry men, Edward Bradshaw, they overpowered Agnes Clark and took the money. In an attempt to silence Agnes while they were stealing her money, like I'm assuming that she was making a big deal about this, Bradshaw stuck his fingers down Agnes's throat to shut her up. Is that the easiest way to silence someone? Like, really? Anyway, like, Surely she could have just like bit him or something. I mean, clearly that's not how it all shaked out anyway, like she died, but really? Whatever his intention, this killed Agnes. When Agnes's body was discovered, so too was Alice Grimbold and her share of the loot. Like, Alice didn't run away. She was still in the pub with the money that she'd stolen from her now dead boss. Like, girl, what are you doing? So when it was quite clear that she had played a part in this, she confessed to the whole thing and was sentenced to burn at the stake. Bradshaw was eventually arrested and also executed. Nothing seems to have been said about Thomas Harrison, so I assume that he got away with it. I don't really know. I couldn't really find anything on him. So if you do know, please let me know in the comments. The bed stayed at Beaumanor Hall for many years before being relocated to Donington Heath Manor, which isn't too far away. And life carried on at Beaumanor Hall. Like, it was a family home for the Herricks. It was happy enough, normal family life. William returned to Beaumanor Hall after a hunting trip in 1876. His wife went to help him sit down in one of his chairs in the study, but he didn't make it and he collapsed and died in his wife's arms at the grand age of 82. A few years after that, the stately home was requisitioned by the military and was turned into a top secret Y station. And these were sites that the British Signals Intelligence used to help Alan Turing to crack the Enigma code at Bletchley Park, which we will 100% do an episode on, as not only is it super interesting, it's also haunted as hell. I feel like I'm saying that about like every new location that I bring into my episodes. I'm like, we'll do an episode on that. We'll do an episode on that. If you have any ideas for episodes that you want me to cover, then please do let me know in the comments, because I'm always open to hearing new and interesting places. So Beaumanor Hall was particularly important for the community during World War II, as the cellars were used as an air raid shelter for local people. So while there wasn't any particularly like violent deaths or like super dark history associated with Beaumanor Hall, like other than King Richard's bed, it is a very old estate that does have hundreds of years of history tied to it. So it's sort of not surprising that it's known as one of the most haunted places in Leicestershire. The servants' quarters up in the attic are known to be a particularly haunted spot. Many people get the feeling that they're being watched as soon as they step foot on that first step into the attic. And there are loads of stories of a large, unfriendly spirit of a coachman that will follow you around up there, making it very clear that he does not like you in his space. The story goes that this coachman hung himself, although I couldn't really find anything confirming or denying this or like finding out who he was. But he does make himself known by heavy booted footsteps on the stairs and appearing as a very large, very unfriendly shadow figure. He's also been reported to shout at people as they walk past him. I think I would just melt if something shouted at me that I could not see. I don't do confrontation at the best of times, like let alone something I cannot see shouting at me. Like no thank you. The housekeeper's room is also upstairs in the attic. So while they would have spent most of their time downstairs tending to the family and life, it seems that in death they've moved back upstairs. It's a particularly active spot with disembodied moans and crying and even doors slamming with no explanation. Another famous ghost that haunts Beaumanor Hall is the spirit of a lady who is seen roaming on the staircase in the main hall. She's even been seen floating through a closed door into the lady of the manor's bedroom, which leads some people to think that it is Sophia Christie, who was William Herrick's wife, and she ended up outliving him by 40 years. She died in 1915. The cellar is another popular spot in the hall with lots of activity being reported. It's got a very ominous, heavy, negative energy to it, with some staff members even now refusing to go down there on their own. Whistling, knocking and disembodied voices can commonly be heard down there, as well as some people reporting actual poltergeist activity. With the huge amount of history tied to the land and the number of stories of paranormal experiences, it's not hard to see why Beau Manor is known as one of the most haunted spots in Leicestershire. But what do you think? Have you ever been to Beau Manor? Have you ever experienced anything? I think it's quite compelling when there's a lot of stories that corroborate each other. Like, it's not just one person says, oh, I felt this, and then another person in the same room goes, yeah, I feel it too. It's lots of different people on separate occasions all reporting the same thing. That's really compelling. And that's why I think there is something at Beaumanor Hall. I have been to Beaumanor Hall before, I think. They do like residential school trips, so like you'll go with your school and like stay for a few days and do outdoor pursuits like abseiling and raft building and all that sort of thing. So I have been a very long time ago. So I would like to go back again, sort of like for the history and obviously the paranormal. Let me know what you think. So this one was a bit of a shorter episode today. It really didn't feel it. I had to record it 3 times because my microphone just was not playing. I really hope I don't have to record this again. If I look at this footage now and it is muted, I will be very sad. So yeah, it's a shorter one today, but there are some longer ones coming. There are some absolute beasts from the research that I've done. Like, it just keeps going, so there should be some really good long episodes coming. But let me know what you think. Do you prefer shorter episodes like this, or do you like longer ones that are like half an hour plus? Let me know. I probably will end up doing a mix of both, just because with some places, like, there's not that much information on them, but that doesn't mean that the story isn't still quite interesting. But let me know. That's all from me today. That was the history and the hauntings of Beaumanor Hall. I cannot wait to chat with you more tomorrow. Until next time, sleep safe. I just spat again. Oh my god. I'm a terror. I'm a terror.